and welcome to Community Notes. I am your host, Topham, and today from the Roosterteeth community we have Liam, or TheFringe. How's it going?
I'm very well. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. It's a day I'm on holiday, so I've been up for a few hours, ran a few miles, and I'm feeling good.
My holiday I spent in bed because I'm
S-
lazy.
Solid choice for something to do on a holiday, really.
Running a mile? No way.
Cool. Right, let's get into the music. I've asked you to choose five songs, three of which have free choice. Can you choose one of those and tell us why you love that song?
Okay, well the first one it's top of the list, makes it handy. The first one I'm gonna go for is Mind Eraser, No Chaser by Them Crooked Vultures. I wasn't entirely conscious of this group surfacing. I mean, I had been massive followers of the Foo Fighters, Queens of the Stone Age, and Led Zeppelin before, and I first saw these guys play this song live on the Jonathan Ross show on BBC, and it was one of the best live performances I've ever seen. And for those of you who don't know, the band itself is made up of Dave Grohl on drums of Foo Fighters and Nirvana fame, Josh Homme, frontman and lead guitarist of Queens of the Stone Age, and John Paul Jones, the bassist of Led Zeppelin. And it's just a fantastic song. I believe it's about lyrically. I think it's about a drug addict searching for drugs, essentially, and constantly moving on from one high to the next. And it's just the melody of the song, how it builds, and the pace of the chorus and everything. It's just one of those songs you could really get into and lose yourself in. Like it's just a solid hard rock song. Like there's no you can't, and particularly it's off that album, the self-titled album, and it's one of those albums where there's no bad songs on it. There's no album tracks. There's no sort of I will stick 5 minutes of that in for filler. It's just a solid album, and it's the best song on that album, and certainly in my opinion.
Yeah, I remember that album coming out, and I was like, "Oh, this album's gonna be awesome." And my dad was like, "Oh, who's on it?" And I told him the lineup, and he was like, "I must have that album." So like, I told him like a few days before it was coming out, and he's like, "I must have that album." We
Yeah,
were gonna go to the shop at the weekend and like get it, but I'd already ordered it on Amazon for him, and it's like, "Here you go." He was like, "What?" I was like, "Ah, yeah." We listened to it, and just like, "Oh my god, this album's just so damn good."
brilliant album, brilliant. And plus, like when you're talking about those three members, you're crossing at least three different generations of music. You're talking late 70s with John Paul Jones, early 90s grunge with Dave Grohl, and early 2000s hard rock, and then again early 2000s to late 2000s hard rock and with Josh Homme.
Yeah, I mean, it's
So you're reaching so many different people there.
yeah, such an awesome collaboration as well. Just like,
Yeah,
oh, I got to see all these people do this awesome, awesome music. So you,
it's good to
yeah,
hear they're actually coming back, as far as I know.
yeah, definitely. So you said you saw it on what the Jonathan Ross show, them play it live.
Back when he was on BBC, if you can remember that, and I think he's
Yeah,
on ITV now. Yeah, it was just they did an interview before, and Dave Grohl sort of talked because the last time he'd been on the Jonathan Ross show, he was performing with Nirvana, and I think it was maybe before a year before the death of Kurt Cobain. And he said, he said they were supposed to play Lithium when he was on with Nirvana, and instead they played Territorial Pissings and smashed the stage up. And then after they smashed the stage up and ran, there was like 30 seconds left where they had to fill in. So Jonathan Ross had one on one with the camera and turned around and said, Nirvana are also available for birthdays and bar mitzvahs.
oh,
And
crazy.
the overall performance of itself, like the guys on the sofa were just so chilled, and so you could tell that they were all about the music, but at the same time, they didn't take themselves too seriously. They were just ready to put on a good performance. And that's exactly what they did.
Ah, cool. So speaking of performances, do you see or do you have the opportunity to see much live music?
Um, I very rarely miss, as I said before, very rarely miss a live performance when it comes to a local band. When I was in school, I didn't do music, but I knew a lot of people who did cover it for GCSE and A level exams, and they were all in bands, and I briefly started one of my own. They they went on and continued, just kept building up and started doing gigs outside of the school. I would help. I think the last thing I did before I left secondary school was organize a big a charity gig. and because I helped organize it, my band got the first opening slot, which in hindsight probably wasn't a good idea because it was the first time we played live. But I know a lot of people who are in bands. A couple of ones, a couple of rising stars in Northern Ireland, like the guys who I went to school with called Audio Cavalry. They're a fantastic band. Like I mean, I never really. They sort of do the indie light rock sort of music. And it's not necessarily a genre I would really be into, but at the same time, every time I've seen them play live, they're incredible. Like, and thankfully as well, the momentum for sort of the international scene and festivals and stuff in Northern Ireland has been building over the past maybe 3 or 4 years. So 2012, I had the pleasure of seeing probably the best lineup of all time, and that was the Black Keys supporting the Foo Fighters at Tenants Vital. And the both bands just tore the place to shreds. I'd went with my brother, and I was a Foo Fighters fan, and he was a Black Keys fan. And I left a Black Keys fan, and he left a Foo Fighters fan. So, both bands did their job. They tore the place to shreds. Like, and later on this year, I'm going to the same festival to see Bastille and Killers. And the day after, Queens of the Stone Age are playing as well.
Ah, awesome. Sounds like it's a really busy music scene.
It's really building momentum, which is good to see.
Ah, cool. Right, let's move on to the next track. A track you find motivational. What is it, and why does it motivate you?
Well, this is sort of staying with the theme of live music. I went to see these guys last year at a place called Custom House Square in Belfast, and they're a band from Northern Ireland, and they're called "And So I Watch You From Afar." And the song is called "A Little Solidarity Goes a Long Way." These guys are purely instrumental. They content like just that song itself. It opens up with just it builds a momentum from the very start. Just light guitar, and then the bass rings in, and then all of a sudden you get Chris Wee, the drummer, just slamming in with his drums, constantly rolling across. It's almost like it's creating the impression that they're running, and the song itself has such a good vibe about it. Like just two guitars screaming at each other. You can tell that every band member is playing perfectly in sync and knows exactly what everyone else is doing, but at the same time they are pushing each other and pushing each other to get better and better and better. And the video of the song as well is very good. It's them from the point of view of a driver of a car driving through Belfast at night, but it's sped up I think about 50 times. So it's just zooming through Belfast and all these lights and colours come towards you on the screen. It's just the song itself is such a good vibe, and the video is just incredible. Like, and they're one of the rising stars of Northern Ireland. And linking in with my last song, in Amsterdam they supported them Cooker Vultures on their tour.
Ah, cool. So yeah, they're getting somewhere. Cool. So you mentioned before that you were playing in a band. What instrument do you play?
I started again. When it came to music, I enjoyed listening, and when it came to instruments, it was jack of all trades, master of none. Um, I started with electric guitar, and when I found out it just wasn't working for me, like I like playing solos, but I could never sort of go back into the sort of the background and just sit there and do rhythm guitar, which is usually what was required of me. So I thought I'm gonna try something different, and I picked up the bass. Um, and I thought, like I'd some of the guys that I'd followed through music, bassist wise, had really impressed me. Like a lot of people seem to forget or sort of look at Flea and think he's incredible. The Red Hot Chili Peppers, like he's one of the best bassists I've ever seen, and John Entwistle of the Who as well. Boys who's left or right hand is a blur because they're playing so fast. They are sort of fulfilling that quota of playing a rhythm in the background, but it's almost like a constant solo, and they play with it, and they add in their little trills and their little sort of idiosyncrasies, and that's what appealed to me. It was sort of like, yeah, you're locked in by doing a bit of, you're fulfilling a rhythmic role in a band, but who's to say you can't just play with it. And for me, it sort of gave me that wee bit of extra freedom. So when I slotted in, I cashed in on a bass and a good amp, and It worked out for a while, and I still have my bass here, like, and I still pick it up from time to time. I don't play it as much as I should, but I still enjoy playing it.
Yeah, cool. Let's move on to your next track. Another song that you've had free choice over.
This one is probably one of the songs that's most affected my taste in music. It's Spiders by System of a Down. I remember seeing that song. I remember seeing the video for that song. I think I was 12. And the song was older still, like, but I remember it was the first time I turned on like a heavy metal channel on TV, and just the video itself, it was so ethereal and so weird and out there. Like I didn't, any sort of meaning of the song or meaning of the video just flew right over my head. But I was looking at this, going, "This is incredible!" I was loving it. Like and to be honest, those guys still they're one of the bands that never leave my phone or my iPod. Like it's such a good song. It's so like it's stripped down to the bare minimum of a song, but at the same time it's dirty, it's grindy. The solo is covered in static. It's so uh between like Serge Tankian and the lead singer transitioning from beautiful tenor voice to screaming into the mic. It's one of those sort of alternative metal, heavy metal songs that never gets old and never will. It's one of those staples of the genre almost, and it's one of the ones that affected my taste in music since.
Ah, cool. They're such a unique band to listen to. They have such an interesting take on the way the music's played, and I think they're quite vital to the metal scene, really, because of the way they approach the music and how different they are. Being like, oh, you can be different and still fit into the scene. It also really shows how supportive the whole metal music scene can be, and be like, these guys might be a bit weird, but we accept them.
Yeah. Well, they're not. It's not even just about the weirdness. It was sort of eh, any bands at that time that sort of went a wee bit out there and beyond it. Weren't very good. There are a few exceptions, like the likes of Korn and System of a Down, bands that arose in like the mid to late 90s, and it was they sort of set the precedent for any sort of younger bands that were arising at that stage. It was just sort of like you don't have to be Judas Priest, you don't have to be Guns N' Roses, you don't have to be Nirvana. Just if you find something you like, do it and see how it works. And it worked for them, and it's still working for them. They're still playing live today, like. Although I'd like a new album at some stage.
Yeah, definitely. Ah, cool. Let's move on to the next track you've chosen, a song that you find inspirational.
um, this is going to become a very varied list at this rate. I At this stage, this was sort of post metal. I mean, when I was listening to music and it's sort of charting my what different genres I listen to, I moved from like when I was younger, I moved from like the Eagles and Guns N' Roses and Judas Priest because that was what my dad listened to System of a Down, Korn, Nirvana, to I then made the jump to a pretty big friggin' jump to Slipknot, and then that I sort of took a backtrack a wee bit a couple of years later after the All Hope Is Gone album came out, and this one comes from Muse, which in my opinion is one of the best bands ever to leave the UK. Like these guys can't do anything wrong, and it's the Exogenesis Symphony Part One from I believe it is the Resistance album. It just the way that sort of again it's like the And So I Watch You From Afar song. It just builds and builds and builds, and this you have this great crescendo of strings and a fantastic guitar solo and Matt Bellamy's falsetto vocals laid over it as well. It's just it it's so many elements that shouldn't work together that Muse have just sort of bended and broken into shape and created this beautiful piece of music that just rises exponentially and then ends at the very top and falls straight down again into silence. And it's a very good track. I've listened to it myself while I was writing and while I was just sort of it's one of those songs that you just stick on and let your imagination run wild. Like it doesn't force any sort of lyrics or story on you. I mean, considering that there is no lyrics, but at the same time, you just sort of sit back and picture what you can picture. Like it's just a very good song.
Yeah, Muse is definitely one of those bands that inspired me. I think the first performance I ever gave live of playing guitar. I played like I had a full band set up because we had like a 2 day camp, and I made everyone learn Newborn by Muse. So I played the piano part, and then someone else was playing guitar as well, and he played like the main riffs like once the thing had gone in, and I was just joining in as
Yeah.
and where I could and with like all the chords and things. But Muse are so fundamental to me playing guitar that I'm just like they are just an inspiring band because the way they put music together was very very unique and just different, but they managed to break through into the mainstream and as well and
Yeah.
get so much adoration as well, and their live shows just absolutely insane.
I
I
think that were they the first band to play the new Wembley Arena live to a sellout crowd, weren't they?
I think so, and I
Yeah.
believe I was at that gig,
I that
and
was just I saw
absolutely
recordings of it
insane.
live. That was just an incredible show.
I
Like,
think that was just after Black Holes and Revelations had come out.
yeah,
If
yeah,
I'm not mistaken, that's when it was. But I'd seen them at Earl's Court a few years before. Actually, I saw them at Earl's Court in December of 2004. So this is 10 years ago. But at Glastonbury 2004, they headlined the Sunday night as well. So I'd seen them twice that year, and they blew me away both times. They just had the most insane sets, and they
yeah.
have these big flying orbs come out, and everyone just like gets involved. It's been a while since I've seen Muse. Kind of need to see them again, but
They're still on the up. Like they just there's one of those bands they just can't do anything wrong at all. The amount of genres they've touched on, like with the Resistance, it was orchestral. With Black Holes and Revelations, it was sort of there was that influence of the synthesizer, and then it went really electronic with Second Law.
yeah,
And again, like you sort of think for a band that jumps from instrument to instrument, sort of subgenre to subgenre, you sort of think they're either going to run out of momentum or they're going to hit a rock, and the next one's going to be crap. And it hasn't, and long may it continue. Like they're just putting out brilliant album after brilliant album.
yeah, they definitely are. Right, let's move on to the next track, the track that you've had free choice over.
This one, when I went to Silverstone 2012 to see the British Grand Prix,
Yep, I
um,
was. Wait, 2012? That
2012.
was 2 years ago, wasn't it?
Yeah,
Oh,
Mark Webber
I
one.
worked 3 years. 3 years ago is the one I worked at. God, I live like 40 minutes from 40 minutes. That's too far. Like 20 minutes from the track. So
Yeah.
I'm just like, oh. Anyway, carry on. Sorry.
Funnily enough, Deco, One Blue Wolf on the site, he was actually at it as well. It's just sort of
Nice.
like when we discussed it before, he's just sort of like, I was at that race too, small world and all that. Um, but he, this one, I think it was an 8 hour bus journey ahead of me, me and my dad. So we got on, we went, it was like 4 hours to Dublin because we are doing a round trip, picking a whole load of people up. A 3 hour ferry across to Holyhead, and then like it must have been at least 3 hours plus. I mean, it was the journey took pretty much the whole day. Like it was maybe about 12 hours, and like a journey from Holyhead to our hotel in Birmingham. But this song I had on because I had to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning. I was zombified, so I thought I'm gonna stick on something easy to listen to. And I had this on a loop, and it's Magic Spells by Crystal Castles. And it's probably one of the more easier tracks to listen to. They tend to sort of favor sort of static and quite dirty electric feel and sort of distorted vocals layered over with sort of a synth with a lot of dirt over it. Um, and this was one of their just sort of melodic, sort of it's the same melody over and over again with a basic beat, and it's very stripped down and very little vocals in it. It's just a really easy track to listen to, and really just sort of it's very relaxing track. It's one you can just sort of sit down, stick on in the background, and lay back, and you don't even have to listen to the track. But it sort of has a very calming effect just because it's a constant turnover of the same melody, and it's not to the point where it's boring, but sort of to the point where you know it's there, and it just sort of it has very sort of settling and ethereal quality about it that I really like. I mean, I like their other songs and they're on across those 3 albums that they've put out so far, but there's songs on I think it's their second album, a song like Doe Deer you wouldn't listen to outside of like a really grimy club. Whereas this is one of the ones that just sort of you can stick on and just sort of lie back and enjoy it.
Ah, cool. So, let's finish with the final three questions that I have for you.
Oh dear.
I don't know if I've prepared or asked you anything about these before. So, the first question is, if you could have any superpower, which superpower would it be? And which of your songs would be your theme song?
Um, it would be Hulk level strength, but without the getting angry and losing complete control and like leveling a city. So, if I wanted to park my car and someone was in my space at work, I'd just, lift it and throw it across the country and pump my car down where it should be. And I'd probably accompany that with a little solidarity goes a long way by And So I Watch You From Afar, just because of the way that track just is incredible. Like they have a good few tracks that are very good across all their albums, like Holy Land's 4 a.m., which is about it's about a student party, and the Holy Lands is an area in Belfast. It's the student digs area, and it's renowned for Project X level parties that basically level a district.
Nice.
It's calmed down now, like, but they sort of wrote it about a party that was just finishing up at 4 o'clock in the morning, and then all of a sudden it explodes again because someone's done something crazy and everyone's back out in the street and all. It's another very good song, but um, all in all, the fact that And So I Watch You From Afar can put out songs like A Little Solidarity and Holy Lands 4 a.m. and Search Party Animals, they can put across such a message and a story and a vibe without using a single lyric is incredible to me.
Ah, cool. So, if you had to listen to only one of the songs that you've chosen for the rest of time, which one would it be?
This one's a toss up. Because I spent most of my journey to Silverstone listening to Crystal Castles over
Mhm.
and over again.
Yeah.
Um, I think it would be Mind Eraser, No Chaser, just because the speed and the pace of that song and how it's just constant. For a song about drugs, it has a very sort of get up and go quality about it.
Yeah.
It's strange. It just sort of it punches through, and it's sort of just very sort of all right. I'm up. I want to do something. I want to do something. Just get a bit of energy about you. Like, and it's certainly one that I've been listening to over and over again lately. It's definitely one I'll not get tired of. So probably that one.
Ah, cool. And what is your favorite album of the moment?
At the moment, now that's a difficult one. The last one I bought, I think, was House of Golden Bones Part 2 by Stone Sour.
Good album there.
Both of them were very good. But I have to say, I'll need to look back at my shelf here to see, because there's a couple that I just continuously listen to. It would probably have to be um, Jack White's solo album,
Very,
Blunderbuss.
very good album.
It is a fantastic album. Like, there's another guy that just is like, even you sort of thought if once the White Stripes went, you sort of thought, well, he's just gonna fall into the background. And he didn't. He, fired out an incredible album again. Another one with not a single bad song on it. Like, so, it would probably be that one because it's one of the ones aside from them Crooked Vultures. One of the ones that I'm always listening to.
Ah, cool. Yeah, Jack White's such a unique character as well. Just his music's fascinating to listen to, and then you look at what he does, and you're just like, oh, maybe.
Yeah, he's certainly an enigma of the music scene. Pretty much, he's I think that sort of lends itself to his music, a sort of blend of blues and hard rock, and you know, he all these, like, I watched the documentary after the White Stripes finished that was under Great White Northern Lights,
Hmm.
and the sort of things he was talking about, like he likes to put his keyboard just far away enough from his microphone so that when he has to go to it to play it, he has to jump. He doesn't take more than one plectrum on stage, so if he loses his plectrum, he plays till his fingers bleed, stuff like that. You sort of think, yeah, it's a bit out there, but for someone who's putting out music like that, he's doing something right. He's it might not necessarily be those sort of idiosyncrasies and habits that lend it to him, but at the same time, there's something there that just makes him an incredible musician.
Yeah, definitely. Cool. Well, let's wrap it up here. Where can we find you on the Rooster Teeth site?
I am TheFringe on RT and on Twitter at Dunlimbo, Dunlimbo. Dunlop was taken due to branding issues.
Shocking.
um,
And do you have a YouTube channel as well?
there's a few in the works. I'm working on some stuff for the IMU channel at the minute. Which is IMU collaborations. That's sort of hit a wall at the minute, but uh, I'm looking to push some stuff forward through that. Um, I don't. It's usually I don't really have my own presence on YouTube in that fashion, but definitely I'm dotted across several ones from helping people out in the community. IMU collaborations would be one of them. And then two guys from that broke off to form the Hobgoblins channel. That's Rima and Ash. I would check out there as well, and at Drury Gaming as well because I'm featured in some of his Let's Plays.
Oh, cool. Right. Thank you very much for being my guest.
Thank you very much for having me on. It was a pleasure.
Absolutely no problem. And with that, thanks very much for listening. Goodbye.